Nickels and dimes in my pocket, some with 3 stripes. This game ain't social media.
Oops, sorry, y'all. Didn't mean to cut that off. There we go.
Nickels and dimes in my pocket, some with 3 stripes. This game ain't social media where you looking for life. Deals to be made, I'm a mover and shaker. To the occasion I
Good
ride.
morning, Elena.
Like yeast for a baker, climbing the ladder with swiftness and ease. Spreading through the community just like a damn disease. What I do in office, minimal. Messages sent to you, subliminal. Taking what's not mine, a criminal. The game I play, political. What I do in office, minimal. Messages sent to you, subliminal. Taking what's not mine, a criminal. The game I play, political. The game I play, political.
What's happening, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Daddy's Right Here Live. I'm your host, as always, Severe. What's happening? What's popping? I can sure tell you what's dropping. Yeah, we got a good one this morning. Defensiveness. How often do you encounter somebody who's always defensive? Huh? Always defensive. Right? Don't realize they're offending you by their defensiveness.
Think you know me, not on the same
We're going to talk
level.
about it this morning.
I'm a real gangster, running with the devil. Only see me in person when it's time for the race. I know none of your needs, it's a damn disgrace. An elected official, liquor chaser, character superficial, constituent facer. Knock on your door when I need your vote. A coattail rider, track record just a joke. What I do in office, minimal. Messages sent to you, subliminal. Taking what's not mine, criminal. The game I play, political. What I do in office, minimal. Messages sent to you, subliminal.
Big Avaladonova. What's going on? What's happening?
The game I play, political. The game I play, political.
Oscar, how you doing this morning, man? Thanks for tuning in.
Political. The game I play, political. Once getting into office, promises broken, misled you with confidence and make you a token. Some of us are real, many are just flakes. We're members of a party with no booty shakes. Think you're represented from the hall to the house. When it's time to speak up for you, I'm quiet as a mouse. I have my own agenda, little do you know. Once getting into office, I just go with the flow. What I do in office, minimal messages sent to you, subliminal, taking what's not mine, a criminal. The game I play, political. What I do in office, minimal messages sent to you, subliminal, taking what's not mine, a criminal. The game I play, political. 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 You thought I'd make a difference, gave me your trust. Like semen in a condom, no love, just lust. You want to see change, so do I. But my allegiance is to the party, so to you I lie. I understand the system, I know you don't. Leaving the party, I know you won't. Invited to the party, you're having no fun. Aiding and abetting, thinking I'm going to be the one. What I do in office, minimal messages sent to you, subliminal, taking what's not mine, a criminal. The game I play, political. What I do in office, minimal messages sent to you, subliminal, taking what's not mine, a criminal. The game I play, political.
Full mask Mark, good morning, man. How you
The
doing?
game I play, political. The game I play, political. The game I play, political. What I do in office, minimal messages sent to you, subliminal, taking what's not mine, a criminal. The game I play, political. What I do in office, minimal messages sent to you, subliminal, taking what's not mine, a criminal. The game I play, political.
G Star 34, good morning.
The game I play, political. 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 Political.
You're listening to Political. This is one of the dance mixes that was released about a month and a half ago on my newly released album, Line Up. So if you haven't heard it, if you haven't heard any of my music, make sure you go to your favorite music streaming platform and check it out. Yeah. Album number 4. Make sure you check me out. It's a dance mix, so this one is about 7 minutes and 41 seconds long. So we are not going to play the whole thing this morning, but make sure that you go ahead and check me out on your favorite music streaming platform, wherever it is. It's available on them all. But welcome to another episode of Daddy's Right Here Live. I'm your host, as always, Sabir Aleem. Man, listen, another day above ground. No complaints from me. But I went to the doctor the other day and I got the best news that I've had in a long time. Yeah, my blood pressure is normal. Yeah, it was 120 over. I forget what the bottom number was, but my blood pressure has always been. Elias, what's going on? 160 and above, right? I retired last year, and I have a great, wonderful wife. I have a fantastic life, and my life is just grounded, man, in being a good person. You understand what I'm saying? Not trying to be like somebody else, not trying to do as others do, right? Staying on my path, growing, develop, maturing as an individual in areas of my life. And it's always changes to be made. There's always some change that needs to be made, man. And that's my focus, man, on being better today than I was yesterday. I don't tolerate and deal with a whole lot of things. My circle is extremely small, and I like to keep it that way. That's not to say I don't have a lot of associates, but for me to use the word friend towards anyone takes a lot. It takes a lot of trust. Marcus, Fernando, good morning. It takes a lot. Marcus B348, good morning. I don't want to be confused with another Marcus. Good morning to you, man. Verdeline, Cilion, good morning. So it's always about change. It's always about being a better person. It's always about looking at life from your own perspective and listening to what others have to say about what it is they see of you, right? Because people can't see in you. They can only see of you. So what you present to people is how they're going to interact with you. Plain and simple. You can't sit down and say that it's not true if you know it's not true. If you recognize a certain behavior about yourself, and you need to take a look at working on that behavior, changing that behavior, because you're going to have this behavior for the rest of your life, right? As long as you continue to reinforce those bad behaviors of yours, the more conflict and confrontations you're going to continue to find yourself in. If one person said it to you and another person says it to you, right? The old saying goes, a horse is a horse. At some point, you got to get up on that saddle and giddy up, right? Because nobody is going to go tell somebody else, that doesn't even know the other person that this is who you are. You show up everywhere you go. No matter where you go, you're going to always show up. You take you with you. So you can have geographic changes. You can change schools. You can change jobs. You can change partners. And no matter where you go, you're going to hear the same thing. You're going to hear the same thing. Yeah. One person can say it's a horse. You say, nah, I'm a mule. Another person comes along and says it's a horse. They're talking about the same exact behavior. You've heard it before. You hear it over and over again. There has to be some truth about it. And that's when you start going inside looking at yourself. There are a lot of people who are very defensive and don't realize how offending they're being to you because of their defensiveness, because defensive people say things out of their mouth that aren't true. It's just an impulsive reaction. It's an impulsive reaction to what you think they're saying. What you think they're saying. There's different parts of self that you don't seem to understand. There's a part that's known to others, and that's that sometimes unconscious part that you present to others, because there's a conscious and there's an unconscious and there's a subconscious. And they all play different roles in your life and how you present yourself, but most importantly, they operate at the same time.
You can be consciously saying something, but subconscious thought often comes out. Unconscious thought often comes out. But we encounter people all the time, and they tell you, I'm not being defensive, but you are being defensive because you don't want to hear the truth. Because anytime you hear the truth, it hits the bone, and it just goes throughout your whole body, and it resonates within your mind, and it brings forth your unresolved, your trauma. And we all have experienced trauma. You can't get through life. You can't get through this life, this world, without being inflicted with some level of trauma. And a lot of times the trauma comes from you refusing to accept certain things. Yeah. Sheila Graham, what's going on, cousin? Long time no hear from, no see. Good to see you. You have to accept these things. And just because somebody says something, it doesn't mean that you automatically, take it on as that is true. You think about it. You should be thinking about it, especially if you heard it before. So what we're going to talk about today is from the article, Psychology Today, as always, from Robert Taibbi, L.C.S.W. He did this article on Psychology Today, and the title of the article deals with relationships, but defensiveness takes its toll on relationships and how to stop being defensive about everything. A lot of relationships fail because of people always being defensive, because there always being an argument about something that presented in the relationship that is wreaking havoc. It's destroying the relationship because you're always taking the victim position and not looking at you're actually being a volunteer. You are succumbing to your unresolved. You're allowing your unresolved, your trauma to run your life. You're allowing your trauma to run your life. And everybody that you encounter, you deal with as though you're dealing with the previous person, especially the person who inflicted this trauma upon you. Intentional or unintentional. Being defensive, you're traumatizing people because people love you. They care about you in many instances, and these are the ones who we hurt first. These are the ones who are always subjected to our bad behavior. The people closest to you, they're your whipping boards. They're the ones you beat up on constantly. And you think because that person loves you that they should continue to accept this bad behavior from you. And when they don't, you're hurt. Now you're offended. And you're not looking at that part. It's usually the response to your bad behavior that triggers more of your unresolved, and you begin to act out. Yeah. So this is talking about how to stop being defensive. Defensiveness helped you as a child, but is destructive as an adult. See, and it talks about it helped you as a child because, you begin to learn the difference in how you engage certain situations. Children are ruthless. They say the most truthful, honest things to you. Now, it's their perception. Where did they get that perception from? They're not old enough to really have formed an idea of a worldview other than that which they're groomed in. So whatever that you're getting from them, they've learned it in that environment that they're being raised in. They haven't experienced the world. They haven't. Therefore, you're the one who's grooming them to think and see the world as they do, even when it comes to hate, especially. Children, you see children of all races, religions, ethnicities playing together in one place. This is what you see in children. And then when they begin to get older, right, they keep this, but somebody is telling them otherwise. Social media is good for this. This is one of the main reasons why social media has been to our children's detriment. because it's shaping and forming a worldview that doesn't exist. They bring it into existence by their conduct. They bring it into existence because you have told them this is the way the world is. No, you have to have a conversation about humanity with the child. If you practice a religion and you can only feed that child religion from the perspective of the pastor, the minister, and you're not helping them attach it to interacting with others, well, you're not teaching them. You're regurgitating what somebody else has told you and you're giving it to the child. Teach religion in its full spectrum. That means from cover to cover. Teach them how to search in the index for particular things. Teach them how to use a dictionary so they can understand words. Teach them what happened to mankind before them and why it happened and what the source of strength was and why that source of strength has worked for you and how it can work for them in their lives. There's a lot that comes along with this. But as children, they begin to get their worldview shaped by where they're growing up. And that's why it says it's so destructive as an adult. Because, for instance, a child can sing a Frank Sinatra song, an Anita Baker song at 5, at 9. They can sing the song. But they can't bring forth the passion of that life because they haven't lived it. They're only repeating the words. And that's what happens when a lot of people are practicing a religion or something like that. Gabe, what's going on? Soph, what's happening? David Neighbor Rusa. What? I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, sir, but thank you so much for tuning in. So this is where the worldview begins. And when adults don't mature, because this is about maturity, when adults don't mature and begin to learn and grow from what they learned themselves and they're regurgitating and living somebody else's life, that doesn't work. And that's why we have the chaos that we have. That's why we have the chaos that we have in this world, because of the information, the misinformation, and because the child doesn't mature into their own consciousness and see the world through their own lens. They see people as people. They don't see people from the perspective of race, religion, and all those things. They're having fun with one another. They're enjoying that relationship. People groom people to think the way they do. And I know I'm going to digress for a moment here. I was just watching one of the people that I follow on social media, and they were talking about this video that went viral of this black pastor who supposedly went to this restaurant, and they were told that they did not serve blacks in this restaurant, and then they were told to leave. But they didn't give you the whole story. But that was the story that was given, and it went viral. Right? This is part of this separatist thinking. Right? This is part of this narrative. This is part of that agenda that continues to wreak havoc upon this earth. So he was talking about this video of this same restaurant that was filled with black folk. Yeah. Filled with black folk. And he himself spoke to the owner, and he reassured the owner that he would make sure that on his platform that he would change that thinking of this restaurant owner, because it wasn't true. People are only going to show you this much. They're not going to show you what preceded and what proceeded. They're going to show you what they want to show you. And that's what happens in life. When we're raising children, we're not showing them and telling them the whole picture, because there's a whole picture that has to be shown. There's a whole story that has to be told. So when you see this stuff in social media, they're only showing you the portions that follow a particular narrative, which is usually ingrained in hate, separatism, divisiveness. It's a person's agenda. That's not your agenda. You make it your agenda because other people look like you, and that becomes your agenda because you haven't matured. That's not mature thinking. That's not mature thinking. That's childlike. It's immature. It's irresponsible. And this is ultimately what happens when a person is defensive. They have held on to a thinking because behaviors begin with a thought. They hold on to an old way of thinking or old way of doing things. And then there's never any progress. Elias, Baby Toothpick, Zoe Marie, Dino Nugget, 4E, Forever. Good morning, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. So you have to begin to look at, who are you following? Why are you following this person? Why do you gravitate towards this particular person? Right? If you don't like chocolate ice cream, I don't like chocolate ice cream. That's childish. That's immature. A human being wants to belong to something. And they begin to identify because they're relating to particular things of that person's life. That doesn't mean that that person is like you. Austin, Dufresne, Ashley, Landon D17, good morning. So as a child, and this is for the youth who may be looking at this, the younger folks, listen, I'm 64, I'll be 65 next month, right? There's a lot that I have learned. There's a lot of experience. And there should also be a lot of wisdom as you mature. There should be. But when you're young and you're just going along to get along, you're dressing like other people do. You got posters of particular artists, entertainers, actors, actresses, where you try to be like them. You watch these music videos and things like that, and you start emulating their character, right? Which is not yours. It becomes destructive as you get older if you don't change that thinking. I listen to all types of music, right? I grew up in an era where music wasn't as diverse as it is today. But diversity doesn't necessarily mean that it's worthwhile listening to, because it's dangerous. It's dangerous, right? And you have to look at that. So let's talk about this article. Defensiveness takes its toll on relationships. How to stop. So the key points from this article we're going to talk about today, the first point is defensiveness is about arguing over facts, blaming, and making excuses. All ways of coping as a child. Point 2, defensiveness is destructive to relationships because problems aren't solved and emotional wounds are created. That's the trauma. The emotional wounds are the trauma, right? And that's what resides within your mind, okay? Point 3, the keys are knowing when the argument is getting heated, stopping the pattern, and not triggering each other. Again, because we all have some trauma. Because you have found a means to resolve that trauma doesn't mean that the trauma has gone away. You learn how to cope with it. You learn how to manage the emotional aspects of it, because that's what rises up. And that's what causes the heated arguments. That's what causes the failure of the relationship. Right? So I want you to hear this conversation. You're talking to somebody. The first thing you say to them, you're being defensive. What do they say? No, you are. You always do this. Start gaslighting me. You're the one who starts the name calling. But you, the fact that Allie and Jack are arguing over who is being defensive means they both are. Understand this. Means they both are. If you're going back and forth with who's being defensive and who's not, you're both being triggered. We trigger each other. There are certain people who just rub you the wrong way. And you need to accept that. But part of accepting that is also doing some work to manage and cope that area. I just cut you off. I don't do seconds in relationships. If the relationship is over, we're done. I'm not coming back. We're not going to try this again. I already have enough evidence to support that you are not willing to do anything different. You are not willing to challenge your own negative behavior. You're not willing to seek resolve. I already have that evidence. Why would I go back? Why would I continue to argue with the same person over and over again when it's obvious they're not going to do any different? You can't hope it away. You can't love it away. You can't gift it away. There's nothing that you can do when that person is not willing to confront themselves. Plain and simple. Right? So go on back to the article. What started as a discussion about the kids' bedtime has devolved in minutes. The topic is out the window and has been replaced by an emotional and fact-driven slugfest. See, there's no focus on what we're talking about, right? And you're going to have differences. Anytime you're with another person in any capacity, there's a difference in thinking. There's a different worldview. There's a different way that I deal with things, that I cope with things. Coping and dealing with things for you is not confronting it, but confronting somebody saying something to you about it. That's being defensive. If these two are arguing about the kids' bedtime, what is the issue? Right? So each person should be listening to the other person's view as opposed to defending their stance in an argumentative way. We're going to discuss it. I think that they should go to bed by 9 o'clock. Why? Because they don't usually get to sleep until about 10, 11, and sometimes later. If a child is watching TV, supposed to be going to bed, that bright light is still on inside of their heads. You should actually be turning off any electronic devices unless there's some kind of soundscapes or something like that that you use therapeutically, right? But if you're sitting in front of a TV, your mind is going and going and going. An hour after you turn that TV off, it is still going, right? So that's my perspective on why a child should turn the television off when they say they're going to bed. 9 o'clock, you're getting into bed. You're turning off the television. You're allowing your mind to slow down, right? So I know by 10 o'clock you're asleep. So that means that you're sleeping from 10 to 6 on average, 10 to 7, right? So you're getting adequate sleep. That's my perspective. That's how I see it. If a child, now the other parents say, well, they like to have the TV on because it helps them go to sleep. Right, but then the TV is off on all night because you haven't gotten up in the middle of the night to go turn it off. Right? You don't want to get up in the middle of the night to go turn the TV off. So it stays on all night. So now that turns into something else. Now it turns into the electricity, just running and running and running and running all night because they put everything on. Kids get up, they turn everything on. They turn the TV on. They turn the iPad on. They turn the lights on. They turn the ceiling fan on. They turn everything on. Right? But if you're not listening to me, you're just standing on, well, I don't see why it's a problem. Why are you being defensive about it? Well, because you keep saying it's not about being my way. It's about the practicality of it. For me, other people don't see things from a practical perspective. They don't. They're doing things out of emotion. Out of emotion. Well, I don't want to hear the child crying and all night long, this, that, the other. So I just appease the circumstance. Therefore, you condition that child to be just that way. And the child is self-centered, totally self-centered. Everything is about me. Everything is about my way. That's how an immature mind thinks. It's all about me. Now you're grooming this child to come into being a teenager with the same mindset. They come into adulthood with the same mindset. And then what happens? They're always, always, always going to be in confrontation and conflict with others. It's going to always be that way. Wild Will 71, what's happening? Thank you. Celine Kim, Jay Jones, what's going on? MNH 0115, thanks for tuning in this morning. So it's going to always be that way. You don't have to succumb to the ways of others. By the time you get into your teen years, you should have an idea of where you want to go. You should have something in mind about your future. You should. You should. Anyone coming into adulthood who doesn't have a plan is going to spend their life with that. Chaos, conflict, confrontation. Can't make decisions. Don't want to make decisions. When people make decisions for them, it's an argument. It's a conflict. It's a confrontation because you're telling them how they should live. You're telling them what is right. What you as an adult, a mature-minded, thinking adult, right? And then 20, 30, 40 years, they're still being the same way. They're still being the same exact way. They're in and out of relationships. They're in and out of jobs. Always at odds with somebody because they're at odds within themselves. So that situation will never get resolved because there's always going to be an argument. We're not even going to begin the conversation on what love is. Well, if you love me, you'll accept me as I am. No, that's not right. That's not how that goes, right? Because I have to love me first. And I'm not going to stay in a situation where it's always the back and forth, where it's always the confrontation. We always are going to have difficulties in relationships. How comfortable would you be dealing with you? You find another person just like you. You think it works. It's going to work because we think alike. No, we don't, because we've had a different set of traumas that have happened in our lives. We have different unresolved that presents within our lives, and everybody deals with something differently. So back to the article. Defensiveness is exactly what it sounds like. Defending yourself from what seems like, operative words here, seems like a threat or attack. It's easy to fall into, especially in couple relationships, but it stirs frustration and resentment that can over time wear down the relationship. Right? And when arguments reach their crescendo, problem solving is derailed. And emotional and even physical injury can result, fueling the next argument. Right? And you know, for those of you who don't know, I'm on marriage number 5. But none of my marriages were like short term. Right? Because I believe that you have to work through these things. Right? James Kish 22, Mrs. Aline, welcome. Right? You know, you things take time. It takes time to build relationships with people because you have to understand that people have their stuff. We all have our stuff. Therefore, there are some things that you're going to have to encounter and engage through the course of that relationship regarding that person's unresolved. Now, no matter what it is that you do, that person within themselves has to develop the level of trust, comfort, and loyalty and respect, which is on the top of that list. Right? So it's going to take some time for that. It's going to take time for that. You can't encounter somebody's trauma, somebody's unresolved, somebody's difficulty in life, and automatically walk away from it. Now, there's some things that you just are not going to have. I get that. We all have that list of, we ain't doing that. It happened the first time, we done. No, there's nothing to talk about. There's things we can talk about, and there's things we can't talk about. And that resolves, is within that person, right? It's within that person. And until that person's ready to confront it and bring resolve to it, there's nothing you can do about it. So, you know, over time, you begin to see that this is not going anywhere. This is not about love, folks. This is about your own sanity. This is about caring for you. caring for you, taking care of you, because you have to take care of you first before you can take care of somebody else. And a lot of us get lost in relationships because we love this person so much that we don't want to lose that person. Again, unresolved. That's trauma. What is it about losing this person that's going to so greatly affect your life? Right? What is it about walking away from this person that is going to so greatly affect your life? When they're gone, you feel better after a while, after you work through the loss. But at the end of the day, I had to look at, listen, you have the right to be who you are. I have the right to be who I am. There's things I'm just not going to accept. You got to go. Okay, you don't want to go? I'm going to go, because I'm not going to hold on to toxic. Holding on to toxic is going to kill you. And that person will still be going on hunky-dory. And you're dead spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You're just destroyed. So you allowed that person to destroy you, but you blame them. It's a choice. And it doesn't mean that the other person has to be a bad person. Now, we know infidelity or something like that. It's different. You know, domestic abuse. And hey, listen, that's a wrap. But you have to look at, are you going to prosper and be productive in your life if you continue to be in this kind of relationship? I spent years in these relationships. I got my first marriage, I was 24. I was 24, still a child. I hadn't matured. I was about the street life. I hadn't matured. I was making all kinds of irresponsible choices. By the time I was 34, right, I had began the process of shaking off the boy. Now, according to Sigmund Freud, right, early adulthood doesn't end until 29, the age of 29. Now, think about what you were doing at 29, right? Think about what you were doing before 29, right? So if you're still going to the club, dropping like it's hot, if you're still going to do the party thing, if you're still hanging out on the corner and all those kind of things, you're being in the street, well, you are still immature. You're still immature. That's childlike behavior. Period. Because at that point, you should be married, right? You should be having the family. You should be ensuring that your family is together, is staying together. Even if you part ways as boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, you should be ensuring that no matter what, that child is first and foremost. That's mature mindedness. All this other ratchet stuff about fighting the battles of your failed relationship on the backs of a child is stupid. It's cowardice. It's saying that you don't want to confront you and you don't want to grow up and mature because you say that this person is irresponsible and immature, but you want to be, again, defensiveness. There's nothing right about that behavior of causing a rift between you and the other parent because of a failed relationship. The relationship as boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife is over. Now we have to be parents. But when you don't know how to be a parent, when you're not trying to learn how to be a parent, right? It's a parent in the behavior. Yeah, got that? You like that? Like, yeah, pun. All right. So the face of defensiveness. What does defensiveness look like? Right? And don't put the focus on somebody else. Put the focus on yourself for a minute. Put you in this place to see if you're being defensive, when you're being defensive, because we all do it. I don't like being accused of being something that I'm not. Right? Because I have a consciousness of humanity. And I don't make it a pattern of behavior to act in a particular way where you can conclude that I am this or I am that. That behavior most certainly may be as such. I need to correct that. But I need to be able to identify when I'm being defensive, because when I'm being defensive, I'm offending the other person. I'm negatively impacting that relationship between me and that other person. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be harmful to somebody else. I don't want to be disrespectful, degrading, and all those kind of negative, labels. I don't want to be none of those things. So I work hard at not being that. And if I can't treat you right, I just need to cut you off. I just need to cut you off, because you're going to continue to be that way. You're going to continue to trigger what's within me. And I need to just cut it off. Because if I don't cut you off, right, then I'm going to be impacted by it. And the outcome is not going to be good for me. And obviously others, but it's not going to be good for me. You understand? So the first phase of defensiveness to the article, arguing over facts. It was Tuesday. No, it was Wednesday. I've got the text. My mother said, here, you both get into the weeds over whose reality is right. Your emotional brain has taken over and tells you that if you can get the other person to get the facts right, they will calm down. It never works, because the other person's rational brain, like yours, is offline and can't process anything you're saying. Sound familiar? Right? Because like yesterday, I thought it was Thursday. My wife said, no, it's Friday. I said, really? Man, all day long, I'm thinking that it's Thursday and that tomorrow, which is today, is Friday. Right? What I have to accept is, most importantly, is that I forget things. I don't always sit down and focus on days and times unless there's a scheduled appointment or something like that. I do this, that, and the other. That's how I focus. Right? But in the conversation where we're talking about days, I don't always recall the day it is, because I had nothing planned for that day. Therefore, but I also realized that, especially since I've been retired, I don't keep up with days at all. Times. I just don't. Like, I know at 4:00, the little one has to be picked up from camp. I know at 5:30, the little one has to be picked up from the after school program. But through the course of my day, I'm not thinking about any of that. I'm in the zone of just doing. So I know that about myself. So you have to process what's going on, because we could have went to, no, babe, I'm telling you, look, get the calendar. That's me being in denial about the fact I may not be accurate. I may not be accurate in what it is that I'm saying. Officer 8484, thanks for tuning in. So I have to look at those kind of things about myself, because this is about coming to know you, not the other person. Not the other person. You can go back and forth all day long. And the idea here in resolving conflict is to find a win-win situation. That means both parties walk away feeling like they were heard, they were understood, and that they're valued, most importantly. When you seek to create a win-lose situation, that's never going to be a good outcome. Because even if you're right, what happened in that interaction? How did you make that person feel? Felicia Burton, good morning, sis. You understand what I'm saying to you? How did you make that person feel when you were trying to argue and debate your point? What did you say to them? Did you make them feel stupid? Did you make them feel like that they weren't worthy of having an opinion? Did you make them feel like they're never right about anything? Because you always feel like you're right, they're never going to be right. What happens in that relationship? What happens in that relationship? You begin to quiet the voice of a person who has a voice. They don't talk to you about anything anymore. They don't want to talk to you about it because they already know the outcome. They already know the outcome. She's not going to listen to me. He's not going to listen to me. And they're quiet. And then as soon as something happens where they should have, they won't. They go to somebody else. Now that creates another rift within the relationship. Because I should be able to have any conversation, every conversation with you as my chosen partner. I chose you as a wife. I chose you as my husband. I should be able to come to you about any of these things. If I am creating a divide between you and I'm sending you to somebody else. That's on me. What you do with that is totally on you, your action. But I have to take ownership for if I didn't create an environment where she could come to me and talk to me about anything, her going to another dude and having a conversation, and it don't always have to be another dude. It could be one of her girlfriends. It can be her mother, her father, Uncle Harry. But I should be able to create an environment. I should be able to live in an environment we can talk about anything. Because you're always going to make an opening for something or somebody else. It don't necessarily have to be another person. It can be drugs. I feel more comfortable with the bottle. I feel more comfortable with the bag. I feel more comfortable with the pill. Because I can't come to you. And because of my own virtue, my own value, I'm not going to choose another person. So I'm going to go another route. Or maybe I just kill myself. This is real, people. It's real. When somebody cares for you, deeply cares for you, when they love you, right? And they don't want you to leave them, or they don't want to leave you. It's a lot of things that happen because you're just not listening, because you just don't give me a voice, because I feel no value within this relationship. Number 2 on that list, making excuses and blaming the other person, like lying. Excuses are learned ways of avoiding responsibility and hopefully the other's anger, right? Blaming the other person for your actions shifts the focus from defense to offense. I only get angry because you interrupt me. Again, sidestepping responsibility. That's one of the habits that I worked on for years, because I was being defensive about a thing, or because I had this Mr. Know-it-all mentality where, no, I know what's best for you, right? While not doing the best for me, but always interrupting, right? And looking at, again, my condition was about the street. I was in the streets. There's a different level of communication in the streets. There's a whole different persona, in the street when you're talking to people, when you're dealing with certain situations. Like the ghetto fabulous, I refer to them as, the ones who always sit in the barbershop, always sitting in the stoop, always standing on the corner, always got something to talk about. And we always got to have one up, when you're in that mindset. Again, young and dumb, not knowing anything, thinking I knew everything, right? And then you have to learn to shake that part off, right? And I had to learn to shake that off. And I learned. But I also learned when I was in my, I always tell this story. When I was in my associate's program at school, and we were doing group dynamics as one of the focuses of study. And, this girl, she would always, talk, but she always was so long in getting to the point, right? And, I would cut her off, like, nah, well, can you just, because for me, you have to be direct and to the point. If you got to go to Cedarbrook Mall and we gone to Broad and Chestnut, right? And you at Walnut Street, why are you going all the way down there? Tell me, we here. It's right there. But anyway, she raised her hand one day and she said, Sabir, you make me feel, and I forget all the words that she was using in the conversation. But in essence, she was telling me, like, I'll be talking and you always interrupting me. Like you don't let me, finish that. So, like, I had to accept that. And this was in front of about 30 people. And I had to accept it. I didn't feel humiliated. I felt embarrassed for how I made her feel. Right? How I made her feel. Because it was just always, I got so sick of it. I got like, and she would just take so long. And that's still an area for me today. I don't listen. I do so many things. I have so many things that I do. Right? That if I'm taking a minute, like just get to the point, because I don't want to hit all the middle stuff. And it's the same way with writing. In writing, you're conditioned to tell me what you're going to tell me, then tell me what you just told me, and you have to do it in the amount of words. 90 words are in the paragraph. You have to tell me in 90 words. Tell me what you just told me in 120 words. So that's part of my conditioning. Like, get to the point. Get to the point. Because I just want to know why are you telling me? What are you coming to me to tell me about? Because it makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to the other person. It doesn't make sense to the other person. Right? So I had to accept that. And I just wanted to share that with you because I want you to begin to look at your interactions with other people. And when you're interacting, I want you to look at what you're feeling in the moment. Right? Look at the emotions in that moment that you're experiencing when you're interacting with that other person. Yeah. Because it's about what you feel and what you need to better manage and you need to better control. I don't always do well with controlling it because sometimes I'm just like, no, I just don't. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm telling you about me. I'm telling you about me and how I see things and how the only way you can get control of how you're offending somebody else while you're defending yourself, right? You have to get a grasp of that because there's going to be somebody else who's going to do it. So you have to take a look at what is it about this particular person, because most instances it has to do with the person, not the circumstance. You formed an opinion about that person, whether it's something that they rightfully own, it belongs to them or not. It doesn't matter because it comes back down to you. So that's an area of mine that I constantly work on, that I constantly address. The flip side to that is when you disclose things like this to people, people take and run away with it. And it's just, see, there you go again. See, there you go again. So that's the difficulty in why some people don't disclose to others aspects of self, because it's often used as a weapon against them. Again, like I said here, avoiding accountability for your own conduct, avoiding responsibility for what you put into this situation as well. Because if two people are arguing, both are not addressing a particular area which allowed them to be in the midst of what they're in the midst of now. So when you get angry about something, anger is a natural human response to things. That's natural. The level of the interaction is what you have to begin to look at. Why did you get elevated in that particular situation? Right? What was it that took place that you felt compelled to respond or react to it in that manner? We can all be vicious with the tongue. We can all be. Right? We can all make somebody feel like this big in situations. We all can do that. The question is that what you want to do? What's a better way of doing it? And sometimes when people are resistant to resolve, right, it elevates me because you're not seeking to fix this. You keep doing it over and over again, even though I told you that I didn't like it. Even though I told you that it was offensive, even though I told you that it was disrespectful, you continue to do it. You continue to do it. Now it's teetering on spite, vindictiveness, vengefulness. Now I got a problem with you. So the best thing I can do is cut you off. Because if I keep feeding into the behavior, I'm going to act out. I'm going to act out. So I need to understand that about me, not about you, because you're going to keep being you. You're going to keep doing you. I need to understand that there's a consequence for me acting out that could land me in prison, dead, harmed, and I'm not looking for that. So the best thing I can do is cut you off. That's the best thing. And these are the kind of things you have to look at in your everyday interaction with other people. Because it always comes down, you're going to have the consequence. Whether it's you walking away feeling bad, whether it's you walking away with elevated blood pressure, having a headache, right? Whatever it is, the outcome is what you have to look at. What is the desired outcome? I know that sometimes when I get turned on, it's hard to turn off. I'm aware of that. I need to learn how to cut it off. Because if I don't cut it off, it's not going to be a good outcome. And it could be dire consequences. I haven't had a physical confrontation with anyone since 1977. Since 1977. I remember it vividly. And I'm 64. I don't carry myself in the way that a person thinks they can just roll up on me and act the kind of way. I don't have that. I don't conduct myself in that manner. And I don't accept it. I'm in the most diplomatic of ways, right? I de-escalate the situation. We're not going to have the conversation then. But it's different when you're with somebody who you love. It's different with your husband. It's different with your wife. Because we tell ourselves, this is wife, this is husband, this is how I need to deal with this. But you should be telling yourself that about everybody. But we don't. And you have to ask yourself why. If you deal with people across the board in the same manner, right, you'll have better outcomes for your own sanity, your own spirituality, your own, not the other person's. The next thing on the list, interrupting each other, bringing up the past, gaslighting. Emotions are running the show. You both are pushing hard to make your point, using the past to fuel your argument, and gaslighting to dismiss everything the other person is saying. And oftentimes you hear people attributing this type of behavior to women. No, it's not just women. It's anybody who doesn't want to take responsibility for their behavior. It's a diversionary tactic that both gender use to avoid accountability and taking ownership, right, for whatever is being transpired between the two. That's the easy way. You can tell when a person doesn't want to confront the issue. You can tell because they start nitpicking. Well, what did I say? That's not how I said it. That's how I heard you say it, but that's not how I said it. And you go just back and forth. And then the next thing they say is, you always. Is that true? Is it true that I always? No, it's not true. But it's easy, because when you say you always, then you're telling the person you have never done anything other than. You've never listened to me. Well, didn't we just have a conversation last week? We sat down on the patio and had a conversation. But you just said I never. I always. But that's not true. Then it goes into, now you're defensive. So tell me when. Tell me when. That I did. Always. When? Well, tell me. So that way you can now defend the position of when you did. They just said you didn't. So it goes back and forth. But the issue never gets addressed because they don't want to address that. They don't want to address that. This is what you did. This is what we're talking about. Can we talk about what you just did? They don't want to talk about what they just did. Guilt, shame, embarrassment, lack of accountability, irresponsible. They don't want to hear none of that about what I just did. They want to tell you what you just said and how you just said it. Well, you didn't have to say it like that. Yeah, maybe I did do that, but you didn't have to say it like that. I was offended. You offended me. You disrespected me. You belittled me. You degraded me. You gave me a title that didn't belong to me. So now I'm offended. If I react off of my emotions, it's not going to be a good outcome. I already know that. You know that. You knew that. So if you couldn't in that moment figure out what it is that you wanted to say in response to it in a way that was not going to elevate the situation, the best thing you can do is cut it off. Be quiet. Todd Geisinger, good morning. Bestie Baylin, what's happening? You understand what I'm saying to you? Charles Termini, what's going on, brother? So you have to look at everything about you. It is never, ever about the other person. It's always about you. There's another them right around the corner waiting on you in the workplace, in school, right? In the supermarket. It's another them just like it. Choo choo. You understand? There's another one of them. If you continue to gaslight situations, and we see a lot of that in social media, it's always people gaslighting situations. Mandy, 88B, what's happening? We see it all the time in social media. Again, these are people's narratives, right? You see a whole lot of things over and over again. Listen to this. When you watch something on social media, let's say police brutality upon blacks. Let's look at that first. Well, how often do you look at those videos? The algorithm will keep putting it in front of you. It's pushing the narrative. It's going to always push the narrative of circumstances that involves race. By the time you come away from that 4 hours of being on social media, you're filled with hate. You're filled with rage. That's what you're filled with. You haven't gotten any knowledge on having better relations between those who don't look like you and yourself. You got all the information to keep us divided. That's the agenda that somebody else has put out there. That's the narrative. That's the propaganda that's going to keep. If you take social media away and interact with everybody, you'll see a whole different life. A whole different life. But all you need to have is a couple seconds of watching something, and it's going to be shown to you over and over again. And that's all you're going to find in your feed. That's all you're going to find in your feed. When you see a bunch of blacks, with guns and fighting and all that stuff, and you're sitting there watching that video, the algorithm sees that. And that's all you're going to keep watching. And you watch it over and over again. So by the time you walk out of your front door, that's what you're filled with. You're filled with hate. You're filled with rage. You're filled with all this defensiveness. You're filled with all of it. But as an adult, you're responsible for your thinking. For your thinking. You're responsible. And the laws take that in consideration. The courts take that in consideration. So if y'all in the house arguing and fighting as man and wife, as boyfriend and girlfriend, right? And you have children in the house. The children, first of all, being groomed to interact with the rest of the world just like that. Conflict, confrontation, lies, all kinds. The children see that, and the children are groomed by that. They see you at your age doing that. Therefore, they aspire to be that. And you as an adult continue to absorb all of that. And you pass that information on to them. And they grow up to be and act just like you. But you don't like that when they act like you. You think it's funny when they act like you with the bad behavior. But you won't take ownership for the fact that they're doing it. You won't take ownership. You taught them that. But you want to stand there and say, well, they know better. They doing it because they want to do it. No, you taught them that. They look at you. They have admiration for you. They follow you. They want to be like you. And you don't want to look at your power of influence over their behavior because you don't want to take ownership for it. As an adult. The other point here, the other face of defensiveness, shutting down, leaving. If either of you gets too overwhelmed, it's easy to shut down and tune out or physically leave. Now, you can kind of take this from a couple of different perspectives. If I'm getting overwhelmed and I feel like I'm getting ready to snap, right? I know when it's coming. I know when it's coming. One of the first things I do is I lose eye contact with you, right? I'm not looking at you. I'm looking away from you, right? Because that triggers me. Like I'm looking at you like, what's wrong with you? Why do I deserve this coming from you? Why do I deserve this kind of rhetoric? Why do I deserve this slick mouth? Why do I deserve the disrespect? I don't disrespect you. See, and I always say this, and I want to remind you, to a man, respect comes first. Respect is love to a man. If you're disrespecting me, you can't possibly care about me, right? If you're disrespecting me, right, I'm going to have to shut you down because I don't tolerate the disrespect. I don't disrespect people. And I'm sure as hell not going to let you disrespect me, right? So when it talks here about if either of you gets too overwhelmed, it's easy to shut down. It's easy to tune out because now I'm tuning out. Now I'm tuning out. I'm not hearing anything else because you just sat here without warrant, without provocation, and disrespected me. So I'm tuning you out now. And then at some point in there, I'm going to leave. Now, sometimes leaving comes first. I already know me. My responsibility is to manage me, not for you, for me. For me. Because I know how I can react. Just like anybody else, everybody else, you know. Everybody has the potential to be and to do. I know where it takes me. I have to be responsible for me. So I need to walk away. The flip side to that is when things die down, right? You should be explaining to that person why you walked away. And even though more than likely when a person is defensive, they're going to use that against you. You still got to tell them. I walked away because I felt like I was about to, right? Because when you do this, I feel this. You have to have that conversation. Even though they're going to turn around and say, yeah, go ahead, walk away. That's what you always do. Walk away, walk. That's gaslighting. That's gaslighting. Not even so, you always walk away. Every time we come to you always walking away. Do you understand why people walk away? Have you ever tried it? Or you rather just sit there and just argue and argue and argue and argue and argue until your point is taken? No, it's not time to talk. Now is not the time to have that conversation because it's not going to be a good outcome. And you're not going to force me into this conflict because you already know the outcome. You already know if you force my hand into the situation that I'm going to say and or do some things, so that way you can continue to be the victim. You can continue to act off of my response to your bad behavior. Because people who don't want to take responsibility always point out your response to their bad behavior. See, I'm good as long as I don't clap back. I'm good as long as I continue to take the humble approach. I'm good when I don't say anything, when I just let you go ahead and be slick with your mouth. But as soon as I clap back, oh, now you want to cry. Now you want to go through some feelings because I offended you. Now it's a different story. But when you sitting there with all this yap, with all this old chicken neck stuff, when you saying all these slick things out of your mouth, oh, everything is good. But as soon as I roar, as soon as I put my chest out, start beating on my chest, now you a victim. You're always the victim. You can't change that about a person. You can't change that. That's comfort for them. They're always going to stay in that position. The world is wrong and they're right. The world is doing them wrong. The world is beating them down. The world doesn't understand. No, the world understands quite well. You don't want to take ownership for your behavior. That's why we have graveyards so filled up. That's why we have prisons so filled up, because people don't want to take ownership before it gets to that point. Before it gets to that point. You want to keep being the victim. It's easy. And that's been my experience throughout the years of my marriages. I'm good as long as I'm accommodating. I'm good as long as I'm gifting. I'm good as long as I'm sexing. I'm good. But when it comes to confronting issues that affect both of us, that's the problem. Because you don't want to go through this. You don't want to deal with this. But look at what you're doing. You're being disrespectful. And the first thing when you tell somebody that they're being disrespectful, the first thing they do is, Miss Cherries, what's happening? Farah Madan, how are you? Val, what's his Val? Mandy, 88B. Good morning. Thanks for tuning in. The first thing somebody says when you tell them that was disrespectful, I didn't disrespect you. I would never disrespect you. You just did. I just told you that you did. No, but I didn't. If I tell you what you just said or did to me was disrespectful, you need to accept my perspective and don't do it again. It's really just that simple. You see, it's like loving somebody. You can love me the best way you know how, but you have to learn how to love me the way I need to be loved. There's a difference. If I tell you that your behavior is disrespectful toward me, you have to own it. You have to learn how to respect me, interact with me the way I'm telling you has to be. Not the way you choose to. Not the way you choose to. Again, that's why there's so many conflicts and confrontations in relationships, right? Because men are conditioned to just take it on the chin. In a relationship, oftentimes what happens is that mindset coming from a woman is different. We should just stand there. We should just let you put your hands on us. We should just stand there, not say nothing. You're not supposed to hit a woman. You're supposed to just that and the other. What kind of man? A man who is fed up. A man who is sick of your mouth. A man who is sick of your disrespect. That's what kind of man. So the next time you have that question, what kind of a man, right? Not condoning anything, simply telling you. For a man, respect is love. Plain and simple. If you don't respect me as a man, walk away from me. But don't walk around disrespecting me as a man and think that I'm going to let it go. Over and over and over again. The beginning of this article talked about a pattern, not just an incident, not just a situation, a pattern of behavior. You're just not going to keep doing it with any man. The lowliest of man, the lowest of man is not going to tolerate it. No. And that's why we have so many situations today where we have father, mother, parental absenteeism. Because somebody decided, instead of having a confrontation in with a 50-50, a win-win situation, right? They create a win-lose situation. And the win-lose situation, the focus is on between the parents. You want one parent to lose so you can win. And the child is in the middle losing all the time. The child always loses. Look at the streets today. The child always loses. And your justification is the other parent failed. But what did you do to fix that relationship? What did you do to allow that relationship to be as it is? When mom comes, mom comes. You're supposed to love your father. You're supposed to love your mother. What happened between us has nothing to do with our love for you. We're the ones who failed in that area. As opposed to trying to make yourself look like the best parent, the better parent, while making the other parent look like the bad parent. What does my cheating have to do with parenting? Help me. Tell me. Cheating has nothing to do with me being a father. Cheating has nothing to do with her being a mother. That has everything to do with the failed relationship. It has everything to do with the failed relationship. It has nothing to do. Listen, you have to start looking at your role in the continued divide, dissension, and difficulties between you and the other parent. That's your responsibility. Nobody has to change for you. And in most instances, you had a child with or by somebody who you didn't love, somebody who you didn't see as a good mother, as a good father. The perception of that didn't even exist. It was about the sex. It wasn't an unintended pregnancy if you didn't use contraception. That's an intended pregnancy. It's like rolling the dice. I hope I don't get pregnant, but it's good. We're going to do this. And you missed the bullet the first time. You go back the second time, if it's good. You go back a third time. You don't know anything about this person. You really don't know about this person's hopes, dreams, and aspirations. You really don't know if they're actually doing what it is that they said they desire to do. You don't have any evidence of anything about this person being a good father, being a good mother. It didn't matter. You wanted what you wanted, and you wanted it now, and you got it now. Now there's a child. Now there's a child. You did everything within your means, sometimes beyond your means, to get with that person. Yeah, you even downgraded yourself just so you can get with that person. Oh, he ain't this and he ain't that. What does it have to do with parenting? What does it have to do with parenting? It's always about you defending your position. He was selling drugs when you met him. He was a drug dealer when you met him and you slept with him. Now you want him to stop selling drugs. Because, why? Oh, because he's a father and he should. No, I've been taking care of myself selling drugs for the past 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That's how I take care of myself. That's how I'm going to take care of you. That's how I'm going to take care of my child. That's what's been working for me. What you think, you going to talk me out of it? You going to talk me into a new craft? A new career? No. But what does it have to do with fatherhood? What does it have to do with parenting? And you say, well, as a parent, you should be. What you should be and what you are two different things. You made that decision. And dude, you made that decision. You knew you were in the streets. You knew you were with every Mary Jane and Sue. You knew about the fair exchange, right? Or you ain't got no paper on you? What's up? You know. You knew. You knew you didn't have, you weren't seeking stability in this relationship. It was nothing that showed that there was going to be instability there. We know these things, but what does it have to do with parenting? It's your unresolved. It's your unresolved. Your trauma got triggered, and you drag your trauma along with you year after year after year, relationship after relationship. You keep dragging it with you, and you want somebody else to take the pain away. I can't take away your pain. Can't gift it away. Can't sex it away. And nothing magical to be sprinkled over you. As a clinician, I don't have the power to change somebody's life. I'm not arrogant enough to believe that. I can only give you the information. And it's up to you to take that information and use that information. That's all it is. It's information. Information to guide you towards self-discovery. Information to say, hey, well, just take a look at this. This is your evidence for how your life has been going. Let's look at why. Why does she hate you? Why? Do you think that she's upset because you broke her heart, shattered her hopes, dreams, and aspirations? for having a family, little house on the hill, white picket fence. You shattered that. Regardless of the things that preceded this statement, right? You have to look at your role. Did you ever ask her why she's so angry with you? Did y'all ever sit down and talk about it? Yeah, you know you cheated. But did you still have a conversation about it? No, because more than likely you're defending your position. Well, if you would have been doing this, I would have never cheated. If you was there for me and letting me talk and have conversations and treat me with some level of respect, well, why didn't you just leave? And move on with that. But what does it have to do with parenting? What does it have to do with any of that? But this is not the first time you've heard this. You've made these kind of choices and decisions, and you've acted out on this kind of thinking before this. You heard it before. You heard it before. And that's why I don't get all bent out of shape when every 4 years we get a change in the commander in chief. I don't get, for what? My responsibilities are still going to be the same no matter who's the president of the United States, no matter who the governor is, no matter who the mayor is. My responsibilities don't change. I'm still going to have to go to the store and get bread, milk, eggs, and all that stuff. I'm still going to forget those things. I'm still going to have to sit down and teach my child and educate my child on Black history. I'm still going to have to do all of these things. Nothing changes that. Nothing changes that. I still have to do those things. A relationship is going to fail. I still have to be responsible to my child. I still have to, provide guidance and direction. Even if you have a child who's resentful, right? You still have to fight that battle. But how a parent can sit back and see that the words that they passed on to their child about the other parent, right, is part of the child's unresolved. They hold to it because they want to look like the better parent. They want to look like the better person because of their own shame, guilt, and embarrassment for what transpired in the relationship. But it's beyond me how a parent can see that their child is going through this as an adult, and they don't step in and say, let me tell you the truth. That's beyond me. Like, why would you not save your child? Because you still make it all about you. You still, and you know what? That hasn't changed about you. That part of you still exists. And it still expresses itself. It still presents itself in relationships with others. So anytime anybody says anything about, well, Jane, why didn't you just, well, for what? I don't have, that's his responsibility. But you took that away from him. You took that away from the father because of your negativity, because of this failed relationship, which probably had more to do with the previous relationships and all that unresolved and trauma that you experienced in that. It probably goes all the way back, as often that it does, to childhood. The unresolved from your childhood. You haven't shaken off the child. You haven't shaken off the boy. You haven't shaken off the girl. And here you are, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, still bitter. Your life still laden with unresolved because you're not into the problem solving mindset. You want to stay in the problem. You want to blame the world, but you're in control of yourself. God's girl, what's going on, sis? Happy anniversary. You have to look at those things because it's still a level of responsibility that you have. You can fix it. After the show, go and fix that. Go and correct what it is that needs to be corrected. Go tell the truth. Go tell the child the truth. Let your child be free. Let your child be free. I'm not crying. My eyes just water up. But if I was, it's a sensitive subject. But you understand my point? At any time, you can give your child freedom. Give your child freedom. I did this because I thought it best. I did this because I thought it would be something better for you. But it wasn't better for you. It was better for me because I didn't want to confront myself. I didn't want to confront the fact that I made the mistake to get pregnant by this person, to impregnate this person. That was my mistake in not being responsible and using some kind of protection. I hated your father. Let me tell you something. My mother told me over and over and over again how much she hated my father for what they went through. But my father was murdered. My mother showed up at the courthouse. Blew my mind. Blew my mind. You know what she said? She said, I hated that man for the things that he did to me. She said, but nobody deserved to die the way he did. Blew me away. Regardless of when she said it, she said it. She said it. And that spoke volumes for me after so many years hearing how much she disliked him, how much disdain she had for him. Go save your child's life. Go free your child from the bondage of that other person's absence. When you actually took that child away, when you actually were the one who prevented that parent from seeing that child. Go free your child. And many won't do that because they have to protect themselves along the way. Being an adult implies that you should be at some level of maturity to take ownership and responsibility for your behavior. Look at the streets, man. You tell me how you have hundreds of 12, 13, 15-year-olds out wreaking havoc in the streets, in the malls, influenced by this social media. It's anti-social media. You need to understand it. There's nothing social. There's a very small percentage of social. Most of it is anti-social behavior. This is not a norm. Many are looking at us as that's the norm of Black folks. But I'm glad to see this shift in some of the postings from my white brothers and sisters who are speaking and separating out the so-called ERSs from the A's. You know, the AS, the niggers versus the niggas. Yeah, that's being separated out. Recognizing this is not all Blacks. This is the ones who do this. They even have names for the groups that wreak the havoc, that burn down the neighborhood and stuff like that. It's a shift happening. There's a shift happening. Right? It's sad. But it's inevitable for mankind to be in this condition. If you're a believer, if you're reading and getting an understanding for yourself, mankind has been here before. This has always been the end. This is the end. And I'm saying it's the end of days, and like I'm walking around saying, the time has come. The end of days is here. I'm telling you to look at mankind's condition. Look at what your writings say. Now, we also know there's a lot more to that, but we're not going to have the discussion today. How things are manipulated by man to lead in that direction. Yeah. But we're going to have that conversation on another show, not today. The weather, the uprooting of the earth. You look at these things. Exotica 294, good morning. Whole lot of Miko, what's happening? You have to begin to look at things through a different lens. But you have to change your condition. When it's written that God would only change the condition of man, when man changes his condition. Man, you are part of a whole. You have to understand that. You're part of a whole. So man's condition is in total disarray. We see all of the so-called woke culture. We see all of it. We see all of it. But the children, go get your children off the streets. Most of y'all don't even know where your kids are. Most of y'all are not going to the other parents and say, hey, I need your help. She's in trouble. He's in trouble. These systems are not designed to help. I can tell you that for a fact. None of these children's services do anything but take children. They take children, then they take children, and they place children in places where they're unsafe, where they're violated in every conceivable way, inconceivable way. That's all these systems do. And they do it for themselves. They don't do it to benefit the family. They get a report somebody said. They come to you, want to crawl up your behind and ask you a whole bunch of questions. And if it's like, okay, if they find that sounds like, they take the child from the home, put the child into another dangerous situation, but they said this one was a dangerous situation. They offer no level of assistance, guidance, counseling, or anything like that. They don't have placement for these children in most of these states. I've lived from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, now in Florida. There's nothing. They offer nothing. And anybody from the Department of Children and Families, Department of Human Services, any of them, you want to have that conversation? Let's have that conversation. They bring police to your house. That's a violation. How do you interview a person for allegations and you bring the police with you to be present? No, that's only if needed. It's a violation of HIPAA to interview somebody where it's supposed to be a private interview. Nobody can point it out in policy where it says that this is what it is. They said the police assist when needed if it's a situation that could be. But they just dismantle the family. So it's your responsibility. Everything is based on what's in writing. Everything is based on policy and procedure. And they violate those all the time, all in the name of the family. Well, if you look at the fact that your child is your responsibility, that means that you need to form a better relationship with the other parent. That's your job. That's not the court's job. That's not law enforcement's job. That's your job. Period. That's why they're in place. They don't benefit the family. None of these systems benefit the family. Even when you go back and you start looking at, public assistance, whatever they call it in your particular state, varied subsidies, right? You get a house, $80 a month rent. You get X amount of dollars in cash. You get X amount of dollars in food stamps. Who wouldn't take that deal? Who wouldn't take that deal? But it was to get you out of a place, not to keep you in the place. But who wouldn't take that deal? The intent, separate the family. The man out of the house rule, right? You ever see the movie Claudine? Perfect example. Oh, the people coming. Let me go hide everything. Oh, they're here. They just showed up. Get them shoes. Get your phone. It's all by design. Nothing about the government is about family. You need to understand that. That's your responsibility. So, this all goes back to taking responsibility when it talks here about being defensive about things, right? You don't have to see everything my way. I don't have to see everything your way. But let's make this a win-win situation for both of us, especially when it comes to raising our children. But if you haven't shaken off the boy of yourself, if you haven't shaken off the girl of yourself, how can you possibly do anything to benefit the child? Your child yourself. Oh, now I just offended you. How did I offend you? How did I offend you? Because I rose your unconscious to conscious? Because that's actually what I did. You're conscious of something, but you push it down so you don't have to be conscious of it, so you don't have to live through the fact that you took the child away from the other parent. You can't always be right. Bill Clip, what's going on? Right? Ed Boyce in 74, what's happening? You have to look at these kinds of things. That's not my responsibility. That's your responsibility. But anytime you find yourself in a conversation with somebody and they're not addressing the point in the conversation, revisit it at another time. If you're still faced with that, you have now established a pattern, right? It wasn't going good. It was seeming to go to the left. I wanted to come back to this so we can bring some resolve to it. When a person truly wants to bring resolve to stuff, they'll listen to your point, right? Let them make their point. And if you go to make your point and they're still standing by, well, no, okay. So how do we fix this? Well, I don't know how you're going to fix it, but this is what it's going to be. You need to walk away from that relationship. I'm telling you right now, I don't care. Tell your husband to call me. Tell your wife to call me. I'm telling you that when you see a pattern of unresolved, when you see that a person is not seeking to address the problem, what's presenting right now, and they're always going back to something else, they're always backdating, they're always gaslighting, walk away now. It's not going to change. Don't wear yourself out, as I and countless people have done in marriages, in relationships. Don't do it. You're going to find years. I've done that for you. And it has nothing to do with whether they were a good person, a bad person, or they were this and they were that. Yeah, things happen in relationships that are dissatisfying. Yeah, that's with any relationship with another person. My decision to exit out of the marriages that I had been in prior to this one was that there was no change. There was no change. So you don't think that you can whip it on him or whip it on her and she's going to stay. Sometimes that's the basis for why a relationship continues. Sometimes that wasn't your problem in many relationships. That's why y'all were together anyway. But that's why so many people end up going back and forth together. When I'm done, I'm done. There's no seconds. Nah. You had 5 years. You had 15 years. You had the time. You chose not to. I'm not doing that anymore. So when you see it, walk away from it. You're going to waste so much of your life away in these kind of situations where somebody's always being defensive and you're always being offended. And then what they respond to is you'll clap back. They don't respond to your tears. They don't respond to you begging and pleading with them to, like we got to get through this. We got to fix. They're not responding to that. They're looking at the fact that you just cussed them out. They're looking at the fact that you just told them some true things about themselves, and you shouldn't have said it to me that way. You shouldn't have said that to me at all. I thought now is my thinking is about, I thought we were at this particular place. We couldn't have been at that particular place when you sitting there being disrespectful to me. To a man, respect is love. You respect me, we good. We good. All that I love you, no, you can't possibly love me when you're being disrespectful, when you don't respect me as a man. And then you hear stuff like, oh, well, it ain't no good men out there and men this and men that. Okay. So what, you want to switch teams? Is that going to change you? Is that going to make you a better person? Is that going to help you to understand that you have some behaviors that need to change? You're going to be the same person, no matter what team you're on. Everywhere you go, you take you with you. When do you start looking at, I let another good one get away because I didn't change how I do things? You don't have to tarnish a person. You don't have to do any of that. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. My previous marriages, two good people in a situation, it just didn't work. End of story. I don't have to tell you no story about, well, she this and she that and she didn't do this and she didn't do that. And then you do that, right? And then you have children and you put that on them because he didn't do this and he didn't do that. She didn't do this. She didn't do that. Nah, you don't have to do none of that. You don't have to be bitter towards one another. I just don't mess with you no more. Still be cordial. I'm good. Nah, I don't want to dip off nowhere. I'm good. Sex wasn't the issue. Sex wasn't the issue. You can always go back and dip and dabble. But when you do that, the emotional upheaval that it causes, the difficulty that it causes, because we're no longer together, you start going through the woulda, shoulda, couldas, and you try it again. Then you exposing yourself and everybody in that household to the stuff that already existed before that you knew was never going to get resolved. And it comes right back. You knew that. Right? So you have to understand that. If you are always arguing in a relationship, just listen. If there's no resolve to the presenting issue, it will always be there. It will never be anything different. That person will always live by and stand by that belief system. They don't want to challenge their thinking. They don't want to challenge their values and beliefs about a particular thing. They're going to stand on it. And they're going to stand on how they think about you. So you just have to walk away from it. I did that for you. I'm telling you. Been a clinician for 31 years. I can tell you how many people go back to prison, go back to doing what they were doing before, still doing the same stuff that they did that got them into prison, still having difficulty in relationships with the family members, the children, the spouse. I can tell you. I can tell you how many people I meet with in prison. They come out of prison. I monitor them at the center, and they go right back. You get out, you go on the run, you go to the same places. You go to mom's house, you go to Aunt Mary's house, you go all those back to those same places that you were at before. No change. I know where to find you because you didn't change. You kicked and screamed the whole time you had to be in programming, learned a whole lot of stuff, threw it all out the window when you hit the street. I've seen it. 30 years. I've seen it. Seen people leave, abscond from a center just to go get high, to go right back to prison and do the rest of your time. You got 5 more years in prison to go. And you sacrificed it because you just wanted to go puff, puff, pass. And you're right back in prison. And you're mad because you got caught. Again, now you're defensive. Oh, well, the PO ain't have to be, piss testing me all the time. Hell, I know I'm smoking weed, but I ain't commit no crime. Well, you just where'd you get the weed from? You got a card? You just went and purchased some weed. That's illegal. It's against the law. It's against your probation conditions. But you're mad at the system. You're mad at the system. Oh, you one of them brothers. You for the system. Yeah, they do stuff like that. Gaslighting. That's what it is. That's not going to change, man. But you can change who exposes you to it. You can change how that's impacting you by just getting out of it. You don't have to stay in it. That's a choice that you have. Oh no, maybe it's just me. But let me see here. It's just listen. It's really easy to get caught up. Don't get caught up in what somebody else thinks. Don't get caught up in what somebody else does. Just don't. It's up to you. It's for you. It's not for the other person. We are at the hour, it seems. Let's see what we got here. We are at the hour. Listen, I hope you guys, got something out of today's show. I know I did. I always get something from what it is that I do on these shows. It's not, I just peruse the article. I don't go deep into it. But I learn. And I keep on learning. That's the idea of life. Keep learning. Keep listening. Let people teach you things. Stop being with your mindset of can't nobody teach me nothing. Can't nobody tell me nothing. That's not a good way to live. But as always, we are at the hour, and I'm your host, as always, Sabir Aleem. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next Saturday. Hey, listen, make sure you go to aleemforyou.net, purchase some of our merchandise. Listen, I'm going to show you at some point this week where we at. Looks like a store in here. It's coming along. Pop-up shop coming soon. West Palm Beach. Stay tuned. Thanks for tuning in.
Long ago, touched by an angel, I was clutched. Early childhood trauma, the devil was running amok. I'm grateful to be blessed, far from highly favored. Just one of many who strives to serve and labor. Room to be a man, so many examples. Most misled, regurgitating others like samples. Self-professed leaders, lots of opinions. Wanna be servants of God, mankind, minions.
Thanks for tuning in, y'all.
Mankind, minions. Mankind's minions. Mankind's minions.
Make sure you check this out on any of your favorite music streaming platforms. Just look up Sabir Aleem.
The books make for great reading, filled with many stories, trials and tribulations of man,
And in God in all glory.
Man made man religion, he was the follower of none. Many gods does man serve, know that there but one. Narratives of the divine, signs and symbols walk with pride. Toward those not equally yoked that bias they cannot hide. The words no
Let's get ready for some football, baby. Eagles.
So many unanswered questions, yet they all sit in silence. Room to be a man, so many examples. Most misled, regurgitating others like samples. Self-professed leaders, lots of opinions. Want to be servants of God, mankind, minions. Mankind, minions.
Mankind's minion. Mankind's minion. TikTok. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for the continued love that y'all show on TikTok. Spiritual Educational YouTube station. Been a long time. We've been together since 2007. Thank y'all for continuing to support the channel.
Our currency reads, and God we trust. Man should search it for hell. It should really read, mankind go to hell. Materialism, power, and lust, things money can buy, won't get you into paradise. I'm sure many men will try, bearing his name on paper, another of man's illusions. Figured if you saw it there, religion would form the union. Room to be a man, so many examples, most misled, regurgitating others like samples, self-professed leaders, lots of opinions, want to be servants of God, mankind, minion, mankind, minion.
I gotta tell you, this is my favorite song off of that album. This is from my recently released album, Line Up. You got that salsa kind of flow, you know? You got a salsa, you know what I'm saying? You kind of put that on. Yeah.
Nobody's coming back to save us. We got us in man's world, made in this image and likeness, created to boys and girls. Taking lives seems to be easier. Hell, you're taking your own. Give your life to a man, yet he is stand all alone. The next time you bow down in prayer, or raise your hands to the sky, ask not God for help, ask the guy walking by. Ask the guy walking by. Room to be a man, so many examples, most misled and regurgitated others like samples, self-professed leaders, lots of opinions, wanna be servants of God, mankind, minion, mankind, minion, mankind's minions, mankind's minions.
Stay tuned for the videos too. I'm preparing to put out some videos of these songs. Stay tuned. Kind of show you my moves.
Room to be a man, so many examples, most misled, regurgitating others like samples, self-professed leaders, lots of opinions, wanna be servants of God, mankind, minions, mankind, minions, mankind's minions, mankind's minions.
Hey, make sure you go to my Spiritual Educational station on YouTube, like and subscribe. Make sure you do that. There are over 400 videos on my YouTube educational conversation. Yes, 400. Been doing this for a minute. Put on the video. Bring some couples over. Sit down with your own partner and watch the show and have a conversation and see the magic. If you're going to stay, you're going to go. We'll learn together. Again, I'm your host as always, Sterling. You can be doing anything else on a Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. to listening to me talking. I so appreciate it. I'll see you guys next week, 10 a.m. for another episode of Daddy's Right Here Live. Make sure you go to aleemforyou.net. You can go to aleemforyoullc.etsy.com and see the plethora of merchandise that we have. Best prices on the planet. Best designs, best customization on the planet. We undercut everybody's price because Aleem is for you. We want you to have this merchandise. Sometime during, probably just about most days during the course of the week, I'm going to take you on a tour behind the scenes in the lab right here. Listen, it's looking like a store in here right now. We got cases of merchandise there. We got cabinets filled with merchandise. I got shelves filled with merchandise. We are ramping up for the day, September 1st. I'll give you the location. Come on by, support us. That's going to be our first location. We got other locations we'll be jumping on. But you got to check out our stuff. We have There's Just One collection, right? Where when you come by this particular piece, nobody else has it. Nobody else has it. It's yours. Yours alone. Nobody will have that item. The stuff we have right now, listen, it's banging. You got to get on top of it. aleemforyou.net. Come on by. Check us out. Peace.